So thank you for allowing this space to present the mission that, as you know, it's a strategic initiative. It's one of the 5 missions which were launched by the Commission in September 2021. And the mission, it's a broad mobilization initiative, which is a core in research and innovation. So there is a very important role of research and innovation, but the missions go far beyond research and innovation. So in the next slide, you can see that our mission, so this is one of the 5 missions, as I was saying, broad mobilization initiatives beyond research innovation. It is expected to develop innovative solutions, and as you were rightly saying, solutions which are not only technological and scientific and technological solution, but also social, business, and governance solution in order to tackle 5 main challenges of our days. And our challenge is to restore our ocean and waters by 2030. No pressure, as our director says. So it's a very, very ambitious goal. And in the next slide, you see that our mission, it's at the very core of EU policy making. Here you see that President Ursula von der Leyen at One Ocean Summit organized by Mr. Macron announced that the commitment of the EU to restore our ocean and waters by 2030 with a start of $500 million funding from Horizon Europe and some other EU programs in the first 3 years of a mission. And the President also announced that we would develop a digital twin of the ocean by 2024. So by next year, also very ambitious target. Then in the next slide, I would like to remind what are the objectives of our mission. So we have 3 main objectives. For each of the objectives, we have some specific targets which are indicated in our EU laws and regulations. First objective is to protect and restore marine and freshwater ecosystems and biodiversity. In our mission, we always speak about seas, oceans, and waters as one single system. So it's what Pascal Lamy, our mission board chair, calls the hydrosphere. So here the targets are protecting at least 30% and strictly protecting 10% of EU seas areas, restoring 25 kilometers of free-flowing rivers, and then the marine nature restoration targets, which were indicated by the recent nature restoration law proposal by the European Commission. Second objective is preventing and eliminating pollution of our ocean, seas, and waters by reducing at least 50% plastic litter, 30% microplastic, and 50% nutrient losses, chemical, pesticides, pollution. Third objective is making the blue economy carbon neutral and circular. And here we have targets of net zero maritime emissions, zero carbon aquaculture, low carbon multipurpose use of marine space. In addition to those 3 objectives, we have 2 main enablers. The first is the digital ocean and waters knowledge system. So we are aiming at establishing and preparing the digital twin of the ocean, but also as applied to inland waters. And then the second enabler, which is a public mobilization and engagement, which is a key feature, distinguishing feature of all the missions. Then on the next slide, we see a bit more in detail. So this enabler of a digital ocean and water knowledge system that we are building within the mission. The second enabler in the next slide is a public mobilization, where we are also supporting a series of initiatives of citizen science initiatives of the education, literacy, awareness, stewardship, and volunteering. So you will see that in our work program, we are also giving a lot of attention to coordination and support actions to support the public mobilizations. On the next slide, I would like to recall briefly the concept of lighthouses, which is a concept that we use to implement our mission. And the lighthouses are simply those sites, which in our case are sea basins or oceans or river basins, to pilot, to demonstrate, to develop, and to deploy all the activities across which will implement our mission across all EU seas, ocean, and river basins. So we chose to focus on 4 lighthouses. Each lighthouse has is addressing one specific objective. But that does not mean that each lighthouse, which is one sea or river basin, is only expected to work on that objective. We know that all the three objectives are relevant to all the lighthouses, but in order to gain traction and act quickly, we asked to each lighthouse, to each sea basin to start to concentrate on one of the objectives, and then of course to expand to the other objectives and to interconnect with other sea bases in order to cover all the objectives across all seas and oceans and river basins by the end of the program. We have a Baltic and North Sea basin, which is one lighthouse focusing on the carbon neutrality and circularity, the Mediterranean focusing on pollution, and then we have both the Danube River Basin Lighthouse and the Atlantic and Arctic Coast Lighthouse, which is expected to focus on the objective of protecting and restoring marine and inland waters, biodiversity and ecosystems. On the next slide, we can see, maybe we can go quickly through this. So for each of the lighthouses, as I said, there is a focus on one of the objectives. So maybe we can pass quickly through. This is the Baltic and North Sea on the circularity, and then we have a Danube on protection and restoration. Then we have in the next slide the Mediterranean on pollution, and on the next slide we have the, well, we pass them all. Okay. Here, this is an important slide. So as I said, the mission is not only a matter of research and innovation. So I know you have a very strong strength and core in research and innovation, which is key. The mission starts from research and innovation. It's rooted in Horizon Europe. So it has clearly a very strong importance of research and innovation, but not alone. And it's also, mission is not only about Horizon Europe, and it's not only about the EU level. We have to join forces to team up across all different sectors, across different programs, across different levels, the EU level, the national level, the regional level, and the local level. So we really need to involve all across different levels. So across different EU programs, not only Horizon Europe, there are many other programs which are expected to be involved. We are also carrying out portfolio analysis now across all different programs. For example, the European Maritime Fisheries and Aquacultural Funds, LIFE program, Interreg, so the structural programs as well, the InvestEU, just to mention some. So it's really, we are expected to show that the mission really is investing not only in the Horizon Europe program, but also in the other EU programs. And we are analyzing how far we are with this type of investment. Then there is the level of member states and regions, so also synergies with national and regional programs and initiatives with partnership. We also have partnership between the EU and the national program. For example, last week in Rome, we just launched the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership, which is an effort of 450 million euros between the Commission and the member states, who will invest in research and innovation for a sustainable blue economy. By the way, there will be a call launched by this partnership on the 13th of February. So I also invite you to have a look to this, because it's a major opportunity also for research and innovation. And there we have investment of 70% from the member states. So it's a very important alignment. So also for the mission, it's very important all what is national programs, regional programs. So we join forces with member states, associated countries, also and regions. Then also with international partners, we have important initiatives which are relevant to the mission. For example, the Union for the Mediterranean declared in a ministerial declaration that they will participate and contribute to this mission. We also have, for example, the All Atlantic Ocean Research and Innovation Alliance, which is very relevant and collaborating with the mission. Then, of course, we have synergies with initiatives across the public and the private sector. Of course, all the university. We recently launched, our commissioner launched Ocean University Alliance, very relevant for us. Then we have joint undertakings, which are public-private initiatives, relevant also to the mission. Then we have the financial sector, the European Investment Bank, and others, including philanthropies, which are very interested in investing also in the mission and joining forces. So we have this effort really of trying to coordinate all what is happening and to have a synergetic effect among all the different levels, the different programs and different initiatives. Last but certainly not least, it's the engagement and all the initiatives by the citizens themselves, including by the youth. We have youth ocean ambassadors, we have important projects with the youth, and they have, of course, a very important role to play for the mission. So we need really to join forces. Then in the next slide, what have we done so far? You know that, so in the next slide, we see, you know that we have been running a call for proposals. We invested only for this mission in the Horizon Europe Work Program about 350 million euros in the first 3 years. So the calls of the first 2 years we see in the next slide, they were closed. We selected already projects for about 120 million each year. The first wave from the calls 2021 already started, so they are up and running. We will launch them. They have been kicked off in these last months. The call 2022 also we selected an equivalent number of projects and of also for about 120 million euros. And now we have an open call for the work program 2023 that I invite you to consult with a series of topics which are addressing typically our 3 objectives of our mission. So we see maybe in the next slide better what is the structure of our calls. So you see typically our calls are structured according to our 3 objectives: protecting and restoring, pollution, and the circularity and the carbon neutrality. We have, and what is also important is that as a reference, we have an important document, the most important document for us, which is the implementation plan of our mission, which was published together with a communication of emissions. And then our work programs are designed to implement this implementation plan. So you see for each of those objectives, we have selected, or we are a number of projects. In the objectives, you see that there is also a connection with the lighthouses, which are addressing, for example, the Danube and the Atlantic Arctic for the first objective. But this does not mean that those topics and projects are only reserved for partners in those lighthouses. The topics are open to all. And of course, some of them have a focus on those lighthouses, but certainly not an exclusivity. There is also an important concept, what we call the associated regions. It's exactly for this principle. We start to concentrate on one objective in one lighthouse, but we want to expand. So associated regions, it means regions from other areas, from other sea basins than the ones which are the core of a project or the lighthouse, in order to replicate to all across all Europe. So you see that for each of the objectives, we already selected some projects, mainly innovation actions. We also selected for each of the lighthouses, and those were already launched, one coordination and support action, which will help to structure all the activities across the specific lighthouse. So all this already started after the first 2 years calls. And in the next slide, so you can see that also for the first enabler, the digital ocean and waters knowledge system, we selected also a number of projects. We are investing about 30 million euros in the first 3 years. And we already selected some projects for underlying models for the DTO, the public infrastructures, the integration of biodiversity monitoring into the digital twin of the ocean, European DNA library of marine and freshwater species, because we also integrated biological parameters in this knowledge system. In the next slide, we also see examples of the other enablers. As I said, here we have more coordination and support actions to support citizens' engagements, the relation, for example, of a young generation with the seas and waters, piloting citizen science initiatives. One of them is a Plastic Pirates initiative, which involves all youth in order to tackle pollution. Then we have support actions for students and schools, the blue schools topics, and also some local community-driven business models like for regenerative ocean farming. So this is all type of initiatives which are coordination and support actions for the citizens' engagement. In the next slide, still reporting what have we done as Commission, but I repeat, we are only a small part. We are the initiator of the catalyzers, but the program needs to be implemented at all different levels. But also, so we have launched our calls, we selected projects, we mobilized member states, regions, and stakeholders. We had a series of workshops and major events with all the sea basins and all the countries. Here you see, for example, a picture when we launched a Mediterranean lighthouse. Here it's one of the ministers, the Italian Minister for Research and Innovation, who announced the commitment of our country to implement this lighthouse and this mission. So we had kickoff events for each of the lighthouses. Soon we will have one for the Baltic and North Sea in April this year. And we launch coordination and support actions. And in each event, we also had events which are tailor-made for some categories who will implement our mission. So we identify typical communities of actors, like, for example, the islands, the ports, the regions, the coastal cities, and we address them also bilaterally with dedicated events in order to see how we can work together and join efforts. In the next slide, maybe you see better represented this concept that we are targeting some key actors. We call them the community of actors. For example, the ports, the islands, the cities, and the regions. So we had a series of events with them. And then we are discussing what can we do together. I mean, how can we facilitate your implementation of the actions in order to reach the objectives of the mission. We have, in the next slide, we see that we have also a series of upcoming events with all those targeted communities of actors. And in the next slide, still, yes, we also worked, of course, we need to show that there is a buy-in also at the political level. And I must say that many of the Commission documents, recent Commission documents and communication mention the mission explicitly. So there is a clear political buy-in. We are also in a moment where our mission is evaluated by our policymakers. So it's very important to show that this is not just a part of the research innovation program, which is of course very relevant in the research innovation program, but that we also have a buy-in, the political buy-in. Now, the Commission has several papers which mention the mission, including the new Arctic policy, the sustainable blue economy, the zero pollution action plan, the nature restoration law, but also other EU institutions mention the missions, like the Committee of Regions and the Economic and Social Committee, European Economic and Social Committee prepared some opinions on the mission. We had the Union for Mediterranean Declaration, the G7 Minister Communique mentioned also the mission, and several commitments by the EU at the UN conference also mentioned the mission. Then another level of work that has been done, in the next slide we can see, we have launched a series of support structures to help the mission implementation. I mentioned already 4 coordination and support actions which were launched for each of the sea basins. Then we also just launched a mission implementation platform. What will this be? It's not yet online, it's just started, but in a few months it will be online. It's a one-stop shop to provide all sorts of information about the mission, how to implement it, also the very complex landscape of funding which can be used in order to support actions for reaching the mission objectives. So this will be, it will also provide services, assistance services. So this will be important, it will be up and running in a few months from now. We have done also studies, of course, what are the baselines for the lighthouses, for the monitoring and modeling, which efforts do we still need to reach the objectives. So all this will be soon available. They are already public, but we will also assemble all this information through the implementation platform. Next, what is, yes, and this is an important concept that I want to share with you, maybe just before I finish, the mission charter. So the mission charter is something which goes beyond our program. It's not a program. The mission charter is just a framework in order to gather all those actors which will implement the mission, including, of course, the scientific community. So by adhering to our mission charter that we have published in June last year, you will be part of what we call the mission community. And in the next slide, you can see, so the mission charter is meant to mobilize all the stakeholders who are committed to do some actions, whatever actions they are, to achieve the goals of our mission, in order to strengthen our cooperation, to align our efforts, to achieve this critical mass, which is very much needed for the important transition that we need to restore our ocean and waters by 2030. Now, this mission charter, on the next slide, we see that why to adhere to the charter. Well, first of all, of course, you're sending a clear signal that you are also committing to the importance of protecting our waters, restoring our waters. And you will gain visibility, of course, visibility for you and for your actions as a mission actor, but this will facilitate all networking opportunities. It will facilitate access to knowledge, access to services. It will form a sort of community of practice so that we will enhance the impact of our actions to achieve the mission goals altogether. And as I said, we will also provide services to those who adhere to the charter and are part of our community in order to facilitate and speed up the actions. In the next slide, you can see so where it's very easy to adhere to the charter. There is an easy form to fill in. It's not binding. You don't need to commit. Just need to have some actions which are ongoing or planned, which contribute to some of the objective of a mission. So it's being part as an actor with ongoing or planned actions to contribute. So we invite you all, please, to adhere to this charter. It's also very important for us to form this community and also to show that the mission has really an added value. On the next slide, you can see we have a map, an interactive map online. This is all in our website of a mission, and you can see on this map, this was the very beginning, now is much, there are many more actions. We already have at least 200 participants. On this interactive map, you can click and see in which country you have also all statistics, which type of actions are carried out. So this also helps the community which is forming to be interactive. And on the next slide, so what is our offer? So we are, of course, inviting you to adhere to a mission. What is our offer? The offer goes far beyond, what is a work program of a call. In the next slide, so you see that through by adhering to the community, you will get, as I said, the visibility. You will get opportunities for networking, exchanging best practices, access to knowledge. Through this implementation platform, you will have facilitated access to knowledge and also to the information on the complex landscape of funding. There will be also advisory services. We will prepare awards for the blue champions. That means that we will support those who have a strong potential, a strong interest for implementing the mission, also to prepare, for example, roadmaps and plans in order to achieve the objectives of a mission in their own context. And we will also give support through the lighthouses, coordination and support actions. And in the next slide, so this is an example of awards that are being prepared, for example, for ports, for cities, for regions, for islands, in order to support the preparation, as I was saying, of transition agendas to achieve the mission objectives. This is just one example of services that will be offered in order to speed up the transition. And in the next slide, So I will just conclude with this. And so what can you do to achieve emission objectives? And in the next slide, it's this concept of being part of this community. So certainly as a scientific community, you will participate to the calls, and but the mission goes beyond that. This is a very important part. But we are aiming at establishing those communities, which will be communities, for example, it can be ports, islands, regions, cities, fisheries communities, industries, philanthropies, and investors, or of course, universities and the academic sector and researchers of EU national research funding organization, but also civic organization and so on. So being part of this, at least 100 lighthouse communities per each, let's say, sea basin and of river basin in order to really form that community that will implement altogether the mission. So this is my final message. So certainly you're invited. There are calls for proposals in the research and innovation, but also in coordination and support actions for citizens engagement and mobilization and knowledge systems. But all other actions that you may be involved in or that you may know in your networks are also very welcome in our community. So we invite you all to not only to have a look to the calls, but also adhere to the charter with your actions or with your planned action and be part of this community, help us to implement all together this mission. And so this is my last message. Welcome, all welcome on board of our mission, and please help us to achieve these goals all together. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm here at your disposal if there are questions.
Thank you, Elisabetta. Thanks a lot for this overview. And indeed, I mean, EuroMarine is with today. We also celebrate the signature of the Mission Ocean Charter that was approved a few weeks ago by the steering committee. And to celebrate that, we also have invited several of the key players in these lighthouses and the CSA that are building these missions. But I want to take up, first of all, because I'm not sure you're staying all the way through the panel moderation later on, but an immediate comment or question is also this, you mentioned that, I mean, the mission goes beyond research and innovation. It's building upon research and innovation also to have a transition into the society. And one of the things we stressed in the meeting before here at EuroMarine is the delivering solutions that are positive and positive in terms of the addressing the objectives of the Mission Ocean, indeed, which is quite a big objective, the one to restore our ocean and the freshwater by 2030. So in that context, I mean, one thing that we discussed already was the risk of fragmentation. So to have many initiatives around that with similar actions to achieve these objectives. And one thing that EuroMarine can also do is to try to mitigate that risk as much as possible. For example, inviting all the projects to present the results in a routine way. But you also mentioned this more regional initiative, like the All Atlantic, for example, that I'm very familiar with. So how do you see this regional community forming? Is something that will emerge spontaneously, or is something that the Commission has some ideas on supporting them?
Thank you very much, Patrizia. And indeed, first of all, congratulations for your adhering to the charter. So I'm very glad, and we will also announce it on social media. So I'm very, very pleased to hear this news, and I would like to congratulate you all. Indeed, I think you have an important role to facilitate this aggregation. You're already a very relevant organization, so your adhesion is key, and also of all your members as individual entities. And we are here to help the formation and the establishment of these communities. So we have a series of events where we are facilitating the process. We are also putting in place a series of instruments to facilitate the process, as I mentioned, also some support services and so. But it would be very welcome for example, you can connect, of course, your cross basin, which is also very important. You could connect to the CSAs. We have 4 CSAs, each for a lighthouse, and then one umbrella CSA, which is called, you have it, Prep for Blue, actually, it's on the program. So they're also with an important role. So the connection to those CSAs will be important. The integration also of your initiatives, for example, you rightly mentioned the one of the All Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance. It's also very important if with your communities which are already connected, that if you can mention in your activity explicitly or facilitate this awareness that your activities are contributing to the mission, it is very important. We don't need to create all sorts of new activities, but already the ones which are existing or planned, which contribute, can be channeled, and you can help this happen. You know, the adhesion to the charter is also a way to show, to give visibility to the community. So also as an association or as an alliance, the adhesion, it's also a signal that you are facilitating the structuring of a community. And I think also connecting through those CSAs, which have a role of structuring and facilitating the implementation of a mission, will be important. So both the adhesion to the charter and the action through in connection with the CSAs, but also through the initiatives where you participate. So you are all ambassadors of the mission, and we can also help by providing material if you would like to include these concepts in your presentations, in your constituencies. That would help, because we really need to amplify and to get everybody on board. And then the CSAs have this role of trying to structure, help us in structuring this. So I think your actions will be very much.
Thank you for that. And indeed, that's part of the mission that we have in EuroMarine. So mission EuroMarine, if we wish. If you are staying for the moderation, then maybe we postpone additional questions later on, because then I'll give the floor to Natalia to present the activities on Prep for Blue.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you very much for your invitation. I'm very, very happy to be here with Elisabetta as an introduction and presentation of innovation actions. I feel less lonely because for 6 months, Prep for Blue has been the only project going on contributing to the mission, and this is what I'm going to present you today. I only have 10 minutes, so I'm going to speak very quickly because I have many things to tell you. Prep for Blue is a 3-year project. We started last June with a 5 million euros, almost 5 million euros from the European Commission that allows 70 partners from 8 countries to work together and contribute to the mission. So we are research performing organizations and universities, but also SMEs and international and European networks. So Elisabetta explained it very well. The mission approach is not only about research and innovation. In this slide, we tried to focus in the main messages that the mission is about. First of all, it's about co-creation and co-implementation of research as a means to have real impact. And I will focus a lot in my presentation about this because Prep for Blue responded to a call that was intended to prepare the aeronautic core for the mission. Nevertheless, we also have activities that respond to what Elisabetta also mentioned. The mission approach is also about creating engagement at different levels, national, regional, and local, and synergies about the different contributors to the mission, and she explained very well in one single slide of these contributors, funding contributors are. And then the lighthouses that was very confused when we submitted this proposal. We submitted this proposal at a time where the implementation plan was not even published, and all these other calls were not known. So lighthouses are supposed to be, it's not something like new, it's more about creating a new ecosystem of collaborations between things, organisms that exist already. And it's about creating a new way of working and collaborating to address the goals, very complex problems in our society. So I was telling you that I will focus a lot about co-creation and co-implementation of research as a means to have impact, because the mission approach is about that. And I was very glad to hear the presentation. Previous presentation is a very nice transition to because we already talked about, Stefan talked about how difficult it was for him to work as an advisor to governments. And we talked also about the knowledge is there, but somehow it's not uptaken by the policymakers, by the consumers and citizens. And the mission is about that. It's about creating a change of paradigm in the scientific approach. How? Well, co-creation and co-implementation with the stakeholders is not participatory research. Participatory research is only one step in the process. If I have to make a very long story short, I could say that co-creation and co-implementation is about not further doing research projects to produce knowledge, but to solve problems. And the problems need to be solved with the future users of solutions. For this, we need to place the users, the people who is affected by the problems at the very beginning of the research project, so that when we ask the questions, research questions that we want to address, we are sure that they are meeting the needs of the users. And then these users of the knowledge, these people affected by the problems, they are engaged through the whole process. And this is the only way to make sure that these people is going to make a sustainable use of the solutions that we are going to produce. Who are the stakeholders? Industry, public authorities, citizens, local residents, of course, us researchers, and the knowledge sector and associations. So our objective is to facilitate the first phase of the mission. I think Elisabetta didn't mention this because this mission has very difficult objectives, very ambitious. The European Commission has organized things in a way that we have a first phase until 2025 where we pilot solutions and then we replicate them in the second phase in these lighthouses, which are new ecosystems of working together in a different way. The main, I don't have time to explain you the whole project, but the main outputs, we hope to create through the Work Package 1 synergies with the mission governance and its contributors, and some of you are on the table with me. We hope also to very inspiring and innovative communication create engagement to the mission through a database, artificial intelligence and digital tools to create a knowledge management system for the mission, to produce recommendations for the creation of the enabling regulatory and financial environment. And I will say in a few slides more about this. We are going to develop online tools, guidelines, trainings, and help desk, and also 4 pilots to test methodologies for co-creation and co-implementation of knowledge with citizens and stakeholders. Who are the target users of all the outputs that just present? Many people, but I'm going to focus on the R&I projects that are going to contribute to the mission. This is a horrible slide that I did that Elisabetta presented much better than I, but this one has all the information you need. Here you have for the 3 main objectives of the mission, the different topics that the European Commission is going to find. Here you have the 350 million euros that Elisabetta presented in the different topics. You have topics that she presented that are going to happen in the different lighthouses, in the different bases, but then you have topics that are the enablers that she called that are more transversal, and not only the enablers, but we have also some research and innovation projects that are covering the whole basis. Very easy to see how many calls we have for the digital twin, the rivers and the natural lakes, inland waters are also present, and in green you have everything that is engagement and education. Now, what we have done in prep for this is that we have analyzed these call texts, and we have extracted from there what are the stakeholders of the European Commission in terms of developing solutions with users. And I'm going to tell you it's not easy. It's difficult for the scientific community to respond to these call texts that are different. They are different because the approach is different. So what is common in all these topics? For the long-term management of solutions that are introduced, the researchers need to participate with citizens, with European volunteer corps, with assemblies, with having ocean literacy activities. You also need to collaborate with NGOs for conservation, raising awareness and education, with regional and local authorities. Sometimes you need national and transnational level of collaboration, especially in the Danube Basin. Local business communities need to be involved also because business model for generating revenue from the solutions is requested if we want them to be long-term. In all the calls, you have a special paragraphs about these engaging with 3 or 5 associated regions that Elisabetta described very well. And you have to engage them in a way that you have to build capacity, replication of solutions in other regions. And finally, she also mentioned the synergies. In all the calls, every topic, you need to collaborate with other projects that are ongoing. And which are those projects? So first of all, look at the back at the bottom of my slide. There are already funded projects contributing to the mission. For this, Prefer Blue has dedicated work package led by Erin, the work package 4, which is about database and knowledge management. But also, Elisabetta mentioned the Synergy Info Pack, which analyzes the contributors of the already published projects, funded projects. But then in the work package of the cluster 6, the different destinations, we have also identified topics that is explicitly stated that they have to contribute to the mission, and they have to apply this co-creation and co-production of knowledge methodologies. So we have analyzed all these. There are things that are in common, there are concepts that are particularly interesting for each one of the basins. And I don't have time to go in detail through all this list. This will be shared by you, but the key message is in here. So developing solutions with users in co-creation and co-implementation is not something that you can improvise. It's not enough to put people in a room and make them discuss and work together during 1, 2, or 3 days. The theoretical foundations need to be understood. If you want to put in practice these methodologies, you need to understand where they come from. Social scientists and scientists in the sustainable development, they've been working on these methodologies for 20 years. So Prefer Blue approach is about, we are not creating anything new. We have specialists that will help you. We have guidelines, we have tools, we have help desk that will help you to get trained to understand these foundations, and most importantly, to identify the right methodology for your need. Because we are currently analyzing 60 different methodologies that will be adapted to the specific problem that you will address in each basin to respond to the mission objectives. So what I'm almost done. The current activities are open for collaboration. Instead of telling you everything that we are going to do, I hope we will have much more opportunities to meet. First of all, implementation charter. If you go to our website, if you want to contribute to create awareness so that you help the European Commission to have more pledges for the implementation charter, we have created some tools that will help you to do so, to communicate about this. The Mission Ocean Digital Academy. The Work Package 2 has actually an academy that has a working group and trainees. If you are interested in communicating about the mission, you can be trained to communicate with these digital tools that I am unable to use, but I will try to do a tweet this afternoon for a ring and the signature of the charter. Then tools, help desk, training on citizen engagement. There are working groups also. You have here a contact if you want to participate. There will be guidelines released very soon, trainings and help desk. If you are interested in learning how to engage with the citizens in your projects contributing to the mission, contact David. Mission database, we have a mission database creating knowledge management, understanding what are the outputs of the funded projects contributing to the mission. Is not alone. We are creating this database also for the CSAs that Elisabetta mentioned in the Banos North, Atlantic, and supporting business. We will need in there's now an ongoing survey to understand how the regional strategies are contributing to the mission. If you want to participate, contact Justine. And the online, there will be very soon in this year, I hope, only catalog, online catalog of action tools and methodologies, guidelines for stakeholder engagement. All this will be fine-tuned in a workshop that we will organize in the European Maritime Days in Brest. I hope I will see you, most of you there, in May 2020. To finish, Prefer Blue is not alone. Here is Prefer Blue. This is preferably in the context of things that Elisabetta also mentioned, the implementation support platform with all these activities as stated in the terms of reference and with links to what is happening in Prefer Blue. These are the different work packages. We are creating synergies also with the basin TFAs. The basin TFAs are responsible for creating this new ecosystem, allowing you innovation actions, research and innovation actions to create this new ecosystem in the basins that allow the first a successful first phase of the mission, piloting solutions and replicated later on. I hope to see you soon in the annual forum of the Mission Ocean in Brussels, I think the 17th of February, and in the European Maritime Day in May in Brest. This is us. We are so happy to work together. This was in Brussels in September. We kicked off, and I'm ready for discussion afterwards because I think I used too much time.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's okay with the time, but yeah, I think we could postpone the discussion later on. Thanks, Natalia. And Uros, if you want to, you need this. What do you need? To Uros. All the way. Yeah, maybe you have to speak up a little bit, but we can hear you.
So, hello everyone. So I'm not a marine scientist. I'm a chemical engineer. I'm also a farmer. I have a small farm. I'm also very passionate about startups. Every year I want to create another startup. So far, I'm quite successful. And before I was listening to you, so mission, some vision, and so on. Getting to product to the market is a hard job. Writing an article is hard job. Buying both should be easy, right? Just to learn all the mistakes. So yeah, how we build our consortium. So we played quite strategically. You can see where it's our base. It's Mediterranean. It's a close sea, so very limited of pollution, plastic and other substances quite emerging. So yeah, we just go around and through my contacts to the startups community and to other projects, we gathered quite let's say competitive consortium, and we actually won. I was not surprised, but it was something that when submitted, we were quite optimistic that we could achieve this. On the second call with plastic rivers, I should mention that there was 2 calls awarded. There was composite to 1, but there were 2 calls awarded because after this happens, it's a miracle. So we are involved on 3 missions, which is good if you're building something big. Still, our focusing in the Mediterranean and Danube, Slovenia is part of the Slovenia, 46 kilometers from the coastline. So we have in that regard. Country partners, countries, 8 genocides, 1 lighthouse. Lighthouse is something that we call here in our case lighthouse for the genocides in the East project. Because in the Venice group plastic free is already involved in 2 European projects, and Milestone and plastic. And they will upgrade the monitoring system and you will not do something like from the scratch. So you have to use other project or stuff. Also, the demo side is in the place from the Mediterranean. So yeah, who wants to go work in Albania or Morocco? It's ambitious, but this was part of the several months of negotiation, then the preparation, also during the country preparation. So we're quite confident that we can deliver. But what is the most important is which technology for this product. So I'm discussion about how research can help innovation action. So our plan, so you can also see that as a objective, you don't see any research. So monitoring what you will use this technology. This is one part, one pillar of the field. Collect is not enough. You know, plastic is the only material group that have their own strategy for circular and so on. Plastic is material that you don't want to use. So you will imagine that there will be like 2 calls about this collecting and recycling of clothes. No one's throwing clothes around. So what you want to achieve is to convince people that okay, if you have a plastic as a material, it can be used as something like this called valorization. We have not a consequence, so you see here these nice pictures what people can do out of it. So maybe we have a second life pencil. Also, I was very happy to see the pencils. This pencil was before a plastic bottle. Good approach, you know, not heading to the ocean, because that I think next. Okay, prevent for the position. So here it's my like more scientific background, so biomaterials, specifically natural biopolymers. Natural biopolymers like polysaccharides and hydrogen polymer cellulose as well. So nature knows this kind of polymers. You can use like material, biomaterial to produce different types of not that durable plastic, let's say, because plastic should be durable to use for application which like less, well, week or less, for example. And we will test this in islands and on the festivals. We included X. X is one of the biggest festivals in Europe. There's a reach more than 5 million people. And you can try it down because every festival has at the end a problem with the waste. And they're like close to the rivers, usually they're close to the seas, which way it goes to, especially not that high developed countries. So and it's a very also organized by a lot of money in there. So it's really very granted. So if you start with the business perspectives, you also choose the partners who can really get the impact of our aims. The rich people and the science, okay, this is what everyone should do. I'm also quite happy to talk to you and a lot of people also in the streets, like we go outside in the bigger cities as well, of people go outside. So that's just the time for plastic, the brand that been more than 5 years. We reach more than 2 million people. So, but still, if you change something, maybe, but still, small steps and so on. And then the applications and so on. Yeah. So technologies. I think I put some slides here from a proposal that maybe we did for you. I'll start going out. See if it goes to like everything. So monitoring, so assess where it is, but not just that, because you're an expert. So basically, you'll be expert in plastic. There's so many plastic in the marine environment that it also see things and like those. It's more important to see what can we achieve from it. Business models that we create from those technologies good. If the material can be useful, which one? What application is what? Here also EU legislation will help us. And also the push from the world itself, then collection, valorization. For example, here, filtration of the water or everything to remove microplastics. What's the business model here? The business model is to reuse water multiple times. Water is important for the businesses to buy this technology, not the microplastics itself. So this is the idea that comes together itself. I'm not being too long, so this is one of the technologies that our recently developed, and it's part of one of the startups we created, so zero-waste cosmetics, so in packaging, so the whole thing is made from the seaweed. So, our project already started about 2 weeks back, and yeah, so partners already running because innovation actions and partners already have their solutions tested before they joined this mission. So nothing was put into the maybe some work or not, but now they're working on the putting those in the place of side because the commission wants that everything is running as confirmed by 2025 with a 2 year of that, and then the next one probably. Here I guess I'm not an expert here. People are a lot of partners are more experts here, but we believe maybe this is a challenge for you. It's artificial intelligence, drones can help us in monitoring, right? Probably. So welcome to connect us and receive on this demo sites to learn about our technology. So this solution is quite open to it. We will designate quite frequently and all about it, the breeding communities, and also as a scientist, people like interested in results, but also welcome to be part of the community. So besides normal communication activities, we will go beyond that. Hackathon, 6-month solution, maybe we buy islands with investors. It's like plastic is there, let's make something that really get into example. So we're open to that because it's not that it's people, it's engaging people is the hardest. They're engaged, they don't ask what they want, they ask what, yes, I need something great about it. Yeah, combining scientists and artists. I know in Slovenia we have now a lot of artists who call themselves scientists. And me as a scientist also have some exhibitions and they don't want me to call a certain artist. So it's maybe it's a struggle, but something to think it's still better because everyone likes art, everyone likes like this emotion. And if you combine those together, but you will try to do our best to design also in that sense. Open calls, this will also start in March. It's for the Soviet region and the public parties. We have collection organization and the surveys, 500,000, so every mission has this. So pay attention, they will be interested, and definitely we will communicate this a lot, and we have a partner access who is expert in those. Yeah, of course, everything goes on social media, so we're very connected. We need to start in Europe, so everything can be influencer now. And yeah, so it's a offer, and we're not calling join our project, we're calling to set a movement. Something bigger, something that, yeah, we'll also be in Brussels in 2 weeks, so then we just the slides. Thank you for your attention and welcome to
I like the plastic fantastic hackathon. That's right inspiring. But we'll discuss that later. I want to give the floor to Oyvind because the presentation of Anna, I think we need some time to upload it. So
yeah, I just need some time to put it.
So we give the floor to Oyvind first, and then we'll come back to you. So Oyvind is going to talk about Olamur or Olamur. It depends if it's a character of Lord of the Rings.
Well, first of all, thank you for that. And first of all, sorry for taking your space. I didn't know. And also thanks to you and to Emma for inviting me. No, one of the most interesting things about taking place in an event like this is that you actually are getting more knowledge about what is the other related projects doing. I've already identified the 2 previous speakers. I need to have a chat with you both, and probably more of you while we're here. My name is Øyvind Berg. I took over as coordinator for the Olamur project 1 month ago, and we project started at the same time, but the original coordinator got another job, so I stepped in. It's a offshore low trophic agriculture in multi-use scenario realization. It's a large EU project. It's a flagship on kelp and mussel farms within offshore farms, offshore wind farms. So the ambition is to address and solve key bottlenecks hampering development of commercially viable and sustainable offshore low trophic agriculture in wind farms or fish farms, and thereby enhancing a suitable low trophic agriculture within the EU. As you see, we will cultivate both kelp and sea lettuce and mussels within the offshore wind farms. We are 25 partners from research organizations and industry. I'm from the Institute of Marine Research in Bergen, Norway. It's a governmental research institute, and we have the contract as the coordinator of the project. As you will see on the map, we are located in the northern part of Europe, in the Baltic and North Sea, And this is well explained by the presence of a Baltic North Sea lighthouse. We are one of those. The 3 pilot demonstration sites we have established is placed in Germany, Denmark, and Estonia. The Estonian pilot case C is placed near the island of Ösel in the Baltic. It's very fresh water. It does not include a wind farm, but it does include a fish farm with rainbow trout and also a mollusk farm. Rainbow trout is a very genetically plastic species. It can survive in the relatively fresh water of the Baltic. The mollusk farm, it's surprising to many, but the standard blue mussel, Mytilus edulis, can also be cultivated high up in the Baltic. So the German sites are in the German North Sea sector, so they are representatives of the North Sea here. Here there is a large wind farm by Meerwind, and they are establishing also by kelp and mussel farms within the area. The pilot case B is in Denmark at the place called Krigerens Flak. For those who have common knowledge there, it's actually on the area where the Danish, Swedish, and German sectors meet. This one is placed. Our activity is placed in the Danish sector. I think it is the largest offshore wind farm in Europe right now, maybe even in the world. It's big. So we are farming. We will be farming within these 3 areas, and thereby we will use a combination of different activities. Now, a part of this motivation behind this is also more efficient use of ocean space, because actually we are facing the situation where area is limiting for many purposes. So by combining 2 or more activities within one area, we can reduce the pressure on the area, thereby making it politically more acceptable to reserve some areas for these activities. Now, the Ulamur fits well into the EU missions. It fits into the European Green Deal, sustainable blue economy, sustainable EU algae sector, the EU MSP, Marine Spatial Planning Platform, the EU for Algae Platform, Aquaculture Assistance Mechanism, Aquaculture Advisory Council, Mission Ocean Charter, of course, and also the Blue Economy, Smart Specialization, and the Horizon Europe Framework Program. So it's a strong policy linkage behind what we do, but we still also have a very practical approach. We are actually doing the things. This is not a purely theoretical project. These farms and wind farms and aquaculture farms are really there or being built up. So the aim is to show the way to profitable, sustainable seafood farming away from the densely populated coasts, with the more open sea, with a focus on low trophic level. There, we can also give our contributions to the circular economy. We can also give our contributions to actually utilizing the nutrients, especially the Baltic, with a heavy load of nutrients. Kelp farming and mussel farming can be viewed as an environmental improvement. So, and also our goal is to implement Mission Lighthouse in the Baltic and North Sea basins in order to make blue economy sustainable, circular, and carbon neutral. So we will co-create a holistic multi-level governance solutions for innovation in offshore seaweed and shellfish farming within windmill farms by comparatively assessing governance structure in the 3 pilot sites at all relevant levels from local to global. We will assess the suitability of such locations, and we will quantify the restorative and regenerative services from implementation of our work here. The target audience, it is of course the regional, national, and EU agencies, but I will and farmers and wind farm operators. But I will especially mention 5 associated regions. Throughout the project, we will open up for 5 associated regions to be included in the project. They should be in either EU member state or associated countries as areas with ecosystems that can benefit from the demonstrations activities. They must be different from the countries already involved in the project, so that we will increase our activities to other areas than just the Baltic and North Sea countries involved now. So we will that call will be out probably this year, and we hope to include 5 associated regions in the project by that. So we will foster communication and interaction with the sector, properly warrant their needs, provide recommendation, and transfer the project outputs to both private and public stakeholders. And this is our email. We are such a new project. We haven't got our website up yet, but please keep on looking for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anna, now is your turn then with, I don't know how to spell it, Agora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for all this.
No, no problem.
Thank you very much for the invitation to be here and to present the Atlantic Arctic Agora. It's the blueprint for Atlantic Arctic Agora on cross-sectoral cooperation for restoration of marine and coastal ecosystems and increased climate resilience through transformative innovation. I know it's a long title, but we covered everything that was requested before. So we hope.
Wait a second, maybe. Yeah, now try now.
Yes, thank you very much. So this was one of the core missions on the Atlantic Arctic that had the topic of protect and restore marine and freshwater ecosystems and biodiversity was already introduced. And we have a very large consortium. You can see we are 30 partners. But as mentioned before, it is, and thank you for you gave this introduction also, because we already engaged, if you see, with some companies, even companies that like you, it's a company that you know, it's private industry with fuel. We have municipalities, we have small companies like this one, the Norwegian Booking Travel, which is a tourism company. We have also the Air Center, which is a network. So we have already engaged several stakeholders around each demo area so that they could be part of the co-creation process, but from the writing of the proposal. So that we could then at the end, hopefully, have a hands-on approach with them and also having them involved, because at the end, not only the company, in the previous session, it was also discussed about the effectiveness of the restoration actions, but this is also to do with the economical part, and some of these partners do have the financial means also to proceed with the actions that we are proposing. So about the name, because it was also asked, Agora. This was inspired on the word Agora from the existing ancient cities. So we really want an open space that serves as a meeting ground for various activities and citizens. So this is what we would like to bring. So the main objective is to demonstrate here is technological, social, logistic, and economic innovation actions, the reduction of pressures in coastal areas, and this will be achieved through the application of ecosystem-based management and nature-based solutions, and then to boost resilience to climate change and mitigating its impacts. So it was also mentioned in the previous presentation, we were funded with 8.4 million, and we just started in December this year. So this is how we interpreted the call. The context of the EU policies, so the biodiversity strategy, the action plan for zero pollution, the European climate law, and the sustainable blue economy. And
the different levels on the economical system, technological system, social system, and ecological system. This was the different levels of transformative innovation that was requested on the call. And then about the solutions, how we would implement with bringing this sustainability and equity of regarding tourism, sustainable fisheries and MPAs, sustainable blue economy, because we're also requesting decarbonization and green ports, societal engagement on the co-design, co-implementation and co-learning process, ecosystem-based management, so reduce pressures on biodiversity and nature-based solutions. And these were some of the examples, and we are covering them on our demo areas. So seagrasses, kelp forests, sand dunes, sand beach, and salt marshes. And then the ultimate goal was to integrate with international conventions and agreements, and then covering the all plastic, covering the Galloway and the Lake statements, the Oslo Convention, and then, as also mentioned, the link to the other missions, namely to the CSA, the Helcom Convention, Barcelona, and the Convention. So, and here we would address it to different special and temporal status. So this is how we somehow constructed the call text and brought into the project what we wanted to do. So to this end, we choose 3 demo areas. So this is Arctic Atlantic. So we start in North Norway, in the Trans-Arctic Archipelago, and then the port in the port county in Ireland, and then the coastline of the Portuguese region. And then these 3 demos have different starting points. So we will not cover all the same actions in all of the demos, but all together we will cover all the actions for the habitats that were mentioned in the project. For instance, just a good example, kelp forests are in northern Norway, and then here we have dune systems also. Here we have dune systems also, but also seagrasses. And just despite that, here it's really a coincidence, but really nice because they are partners here from the sister projects, and we invited each other to the kickoff meetings. So we have had, not only with the CSI, but with both sister projects have been really exchanging contacts, and we have different demos responding to the same call, but very complementary. So it's really nice that we hope we can work together and maximize the results. So mentioning that we have different starting points, but at the end we want them all to contribute to the final goal of the call. We are addressing this as a critical elements. So we have universities, academia, the industries, the government, the institutions, the civil society, and the environmental force. We will have at the end a gaming approach for the participatory governance, and this is mainly because we cover such a large territory that we want to overcome the language barrier. So this is one of our goals. And then 2 major pathways. One is the technology underpinning the transformative hubs of technological development, but the other one is the living labs concept of this co-creation and implementation, and always addressing the different demos as a social ecological systems, so that we always have the different perspectives and as one. And at the end, contributing also to the Atlantic Arctic digital knowledge system. So this is how we structured our project. The first year, this is social innovation, economic innovation, logistics innovation, and technological innovation, so that we try to cover all of them through the different years, and increasing not only the technological readiness and technology readiness level, but also the social readiness level. So that we have during the first year the enabling conditions for this sustained implementation of the actions. Then we have the implementation, here the exchange of behavior and technology development, which is a full development. And here At the end of the first year, we are open the call for the associated regions, because we will also have the 5 associated regions where we hope to replicate our actions. And then at the end of the third year, then we have the demonstration, so the setup, the validation, the demonstration, and then our project will run for 42 months, because of the last 6 months we want to prepare the scaling up for the serious scaling platform, the nature-based solutions, implementable blueprints, the blueprints for the lighthouse scaling up, the roadmaps, and the digital knowledge system. And just to correct that, we have already endorsed the long cycle of the project. And we had our kickoff meeting in December this year in Aveiro, to which we invited the CSI for the Islamic Art and the project. We should have invited people. Yeah, I'm sorry, no, I realize that, but we're still on time to catch up on the on February 17th and at the Maritime Day, because we will be there also. Thank you. I hope you
Thank you very much. And I think we go through the last but not least, of course, project in the mission that we have invited today, and is the Ocean Citizen, led by Sergio Rossi from University of Salento. The kickoff of the meeting, I know, was just last week.
Yes, I'm Sergio Rossi. I'm working on the coordinator of this plan, this Ocean Citizen, this marine forest coastal restoration of the water and the social welfare plan. I'm very thankful for the invite me, and I'm very thankful because in 2018, part of the group that is now the consortium was awarded with this module, to meet and to start for this work. So 4 years, 5 months, and now almost 5 years after that, we have to do that. In one word, in one sentence, what is this? What about this making profitable regeneration plan? Economically profitable. Okay, in 2 different ways. I will explain how. But this is the main target of course. Making this kind of mix of this academic world, this kind of know-how, applying this know-how to make possible this innovation. So we are 21 countries consortium. We still know 22, but these are the different research center, universities, small enterprises, and that are involved. In this 11.1 million euro 4-year project that we started the 1st of January. Also, University of Exeter is here, but with the Brexit is a little bit, this is outside, inside. They got the model before us, I have to say. And the project has been endorsed by the investigations as an enterprise project for this kind of declaration. And this leads also to a cost project that we just later on talk about. These are the countries. There are these 9 countries involved with different rules. People that is working on many different tasks, many different rules, and it's very interesting to see this kind of interaction, because in this project the interaction is absolutely essential. So this project also has a project which is important, which is a map work project. Okay? It's a cost action that I just invite you to participate. I'm also the coordinator of this map work action. This construction is about marine animal forests, which are these habitats that are mainly dominated by sponges, gorgonians, corals, and so on and so on. So we made this construction that started 1 year ago. It's open for everybody. There are many utilities and there are many things. And this construction can also be the development that will also be essential for the ocean seas. For the years, because networking is in the end of ocean seas. So what are the objectives? These are the objectives in general, and you will say that there are two main groups of objectives. Okay, first is the define blueprints of corrective protocol, which is on the water coastal restoration. This is the first main sub-objective one. First, again, first the aim is making this kind of restoration profitable way. Understand the consistent services provided by marine forests, and this, of course, included also seaweeds, phytoplankton, seagrasses, and also the vegetal marine forest. This kind of three-dimensional structures, this ecosystem species, also inside the project. Design and implement ocean cities technologies. So some of the symbiotic techniques of reefs, which are reefs that are designed specifically for restoration and for making suitable the setup in the life and the active restoration. Floating reefs, the FRR floating reefs, which are these floating reefs that Google Innovation many years ago invented, and are incredibly good to make this kind of enhancement of growth, especially, and also very good for enhancement of biodiversity and integrated of agriculture, which is inside. Identify the different characteristics of 5 different prototypes for design of restoration plans. We will talk a little bit later, and interact with other European projects and construction expand from a active restoration. It's very good. So we are very glad to see that there is many projects, especially the group, which is one of the projects that has this kind of view of making this kind of project. But the second sub-objective is consolidate and evaluate an ecosystem-based business model for marine restoration. So this is also very important. So this is not much more the how can we just make this in some way attractive for investors. Okay. Design a multi-stakeholder monitoring program for the use of participant improvement activities of the restoration and conservation plan, making protocols available to public, private action. Define standard factors to evaluate the impact of the this model, and identify and quantify social impact. And this is how I highlight this sentence. This is a long-term project beyond the 4 years of activity, because this is one of the things that have been highlighted when I'm trying to explain really for how we want to just make this possible. Okay. As you know, there are many different forests. Forest in this case, I have seaweeds, grasses, coral reefs, and so on and so on. On the one side, we want to just standardize a protocol to make not only the conservation, especially the transplantation and the restoration class possible with different methodologies, updated methodologies that can be widely used. But we are also just looking for this kind of go far beyond the current phase. Making credits of ecosystem credits or natural capital credits that Carlos was talking about. Because these are very, very important. It's one of the first things that can be used to is indeed make this kind of restoration attractive for investors. Investors are very, very, very interested in this kind of compensation. Okay, we can talk about it later on, but as far as I see, in the last 2.5 years, they're interested to just enhance biodiversity, instead of the biomass associated biomass, which is several associated around this kind of marine forest, and of course the carbon credits, which is testable and easy to validate methods to validate this kind of credits. So in the project, we will have this essence of connectivity between ecosystems. This is that will be increasing the biodiversity with kind of restoration plants, increase the associated biomass. Again, once you have this kind of forest, like Protection Chianca, or like, for example, Bolivian forest, you know that there is an associated biomass of cephalopods or other mollusks or crustaceans and fishes that are much more happier, active controllability of species, blue carbon or carbon credits, which is kind of carbon credits, and also make a long-term climate and biodiversity monitoring program. Because there will be a base there, Spain out. There will be a base in which you can make this kind of monitoring program in the long term. So this kind of actions will easily work for the biologists, for the physicists, social economists to make this kind of approach. And also, and it is very important, the environmental education, that is the quality which is the second possibility to make this kind of, let us say, this profitability. So before we enter in this kind of profitability and this business model, I want to say that here in the event is the place in which we will make practically everything. No, in fact, everything. Okay, all the model will be applied in the island. You know, 7.6 million tourists a year, which is huge. There's a lot of pressure on the tourists, and here what we want to do is a project, it's a program we need to just make a restoration, not only in a shallow area, but also in a supporting shallow. So it will be a continuous, restoration program from the shallow to the deeper areas. We will test the biomass biodiversity and the carbon in these areas, making testing and monitoring the successful regeneration. And then there are Mediterranean Sea. Here we have some of the bay here in Denmark. We have also here in the Arctic pilot, and we that one because what we understand here is that we want to compare some of the variables to see if the restoration program is successful in different ecosystems. But of course, not in all parts can be applied the same kind of model, which is this model. This is the model that we want to apply. This is a regenerative park. This is a land park in which we have several facilities for the people that makes different activities, education activities, awareness activities, games, and so on and so on. It's a regenerative park in which the people is engaged with the ocean. The people is aware of the ocean. And this visitors pay for that. This is the visitors pay for the scientific facilities that make this kind of long-term monitoring and long-term restoration programs, and also pay for the education facilities, which is the state education and entertainment facilities. It's a way they have, this kind of invitation with the sea. They also learn a lot about the sea because I don't know you, but many times what I find is that the people don't know practically nothing about the oceans. It's incredible how small is the knowledge about the oceans around us. People that is familiars or are friends or they don't know practically nothing about the function of the ocean and the things about the ocean. So this will be one way to chat. And this will have an engaged community, and this engaged community will pay part, of course, follow-up for this kind of follow-up to this kind of monitoring program. So here is a render of what is the park that we will. This is a private enterprise. This is a private investment in which there will be all this kind of facilities. There will be a pilot, there will be an academy, there will be many of these facilities and this kind of things that are going in this area. And this supports the same way. Supports the transplantation. Each one diver, there will be 5 persons, 4 or 5 persons out of the water. Because not all of the diver is the driver, mostly the driver in the shallow area, to not only play but also to transplant, of course, accompanied by technicians by professionals and making the transplantation and the restoration program possible. And this kind of activity will also give the opportunity to make the metabolic and the deeper water transplantation possible, which is much more expensive. And it's also much more interesting for biodiversity point of view, the associated biomass, and especially also for the mobilization of carbon. So at the end, okay, what we have, okay, and, sorry. Let me see. That is the next slide.
You have to click on the video probably. Yeah, there. Yeah, a bit on the right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is a very, let's say, is a regenerated complexity, because we want to regenerate the complexity, because we want to restore the situation. We will never reach what we had 200 years ago, 300 years ago. It's completely absurd. But we want to just enhance the biodiversity, try to have an opportunity to make this kind of things. So this project is intended to make this kind of restoration possible and in some way profitable. You have to think that this project started to attract the people, and we presented the project 2 weeks ago in London. They are very interested in this kind. On the one side, on the kind of credits, and on the other side, it's kind of regenerative part. And in 1 week, 1.5 weeks, I will also present this in the same project with the government, the federal government. So the people is quite interested to see what happens and how this mixture of the academia and the private, private investors may just be make possible the some way this kind of regeneration with our long-term okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I think we have about actually 15-20 minutes max to dedicate to the discussion, but I think it was worth to give more time to your presentations, because indeed they are very rich projects in terms of scientific output, but also in terms of engagement with society. So we will have time to discuss, I think, during the networking in details, but maybe I can start the discussion with a question to Elisabetta, that is the one attending online. So would be nice to hear from you what you think after, of course, having the illustration of all these activities that indeed are starting pretty much all at the same time. I noticed that all of them, they have a quite strong engagement with industry and also with society. I also noticed that Natalia, the Prep for Blue, you have an activity in terms of mapping some of this knowledge, which I think you call knowledge database. And there is an activity similar that you mentioned, Elisabetta, in terms of a portfolio analysis of these outputs. So how this, I mean, combination between all these analysis and knowledge databases and understanding what type of output we are expecting. Is there a plan to package them in a way to expand the users that are not only the one limited to the one that are present in the project, but also the one that are not in the project, but probably very much interested in that? So a question for both of you. What do you want to do with this knowledge that will be generated?
Elisabetta, please.
Yes, first of all, congratulations to the coordinators. I'm really, really touched, because it's the first time actually that we hear the presentation of these new projects. So I was just announcing in general that the projects are launched, and now I see them really. So I'm really, really impressed, and really it's a great satisfaction and even an emotion to see that now these projects are fully in action, and they are really excellent. So we really intend to promote them and widely, and also in our upcoming events. So congratulations to all of you. You made the mission happen. You are the first one, so you are first champion and ambassador. So I also encourage you to spread the information about your projects, and encourage all others also to participate to our community, as you are the first champion and ambassadors of it. So congratulations to all of you. And of course, now we are also the Prep for Blue, and Natalia explained it very well, as an important responsibility together with the other CSAs that with which Prep for Blue is very well connected, and also together with the implementation platform that we are setting up starting from now to gather all this information and to make it, of course, available to the others, because here we want to replicate a solution and to adapt them also to the local context. Now this is the first experiments and pilots, demonstrators, but now we need to share the information and to replicate and amplify in order to quickly spread it around all Europe. So you have an important responsibility, not only within your project, but also to amplify and to communicate it, to network with the others. With the help of the CSAs will help us to make all this available online, let's say, but you have with your networks also an important responsibility to spread it as much as possible and make it publicly available and replicable in other contexts. So congratulations, and please disseminate, and we will also help to disseminate. We will invite and in our community and events in order to make this as much
and maybe
as possible.
In that connections on how to scale it up, maybe because Natalia, you mentioned two things: this knowledge database, but also these methodologies for engaging at the basin scale. So maybe you want to elaborate a little bit on that, how this can be applied to the specific projects that we have here, for example.
So for me, there are many questions in your question. Which one do you want me to address? The database
Take one.
Okay. So for the methodologies, this will be very concrete. We are producing guidelines, easy accessible for everybody, so that you get the knowledge, the theoretic knowledge, and also the methodology. There will be tools, a help desk, so advice. So what we are planning to do as an example immediately is that I showed you the 2023 calls that are coming. So we are promoting this help, this advice that we can provide to these projects that are going to submit, to help them to put in there the right methodology of cooperation and co-production of knowledge with the stakeholders that are appropriate, the methodologies that are appropriate. Concerning the database, as I want to give the floor to David Murphy, because he is here. He is leading Erin and Apathy, and they are leading this construction of this database. And David has been key in the preparation of the proposal. So because he's here, I would like him to answer this question instead of myself.
Thanks, yeah, I don't know the answer to this question. I think there's going to be a lot of different efforts, connecting knowledge, analyzing knowledge, trying to transfer knowledge. I think the big thing to think about is the different levels of knowledge and the types of knowledge that we collect. Focusing on how you transfer knowledge that is obtained and application and scale up by end users. That's the challenge. So I think some of the analysis work is at a portfolio level, which is too detailed, but to do a true due diligence, scale up and create a company or business model needs a lot of due diligence. So I think it's just it's all valuable, but it's just understanding how you actually bring knowledge to market, let's say, and have an impact. That's the most important thing. Can we measure the scale up to achieve the targets? Yeah. I suppose in our work, we're going to try and go deep. It's not going to be a volume game, it's going to be a quality game, so that we can show impacts for knowledge we transfer.
And I mean, according to what we saw and also the comments, to move to Sergio, because you mentioned specifically that some of the knowledge that you generate or some of the solutions that you will provide have already an interest from different economic sectors. Do you want to explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, in fact, that's very interesting, because what happens is that investors and banks and private enterprises are much and more. On the one side, they are more and more not all, but more and more understanding what indeed regeneration, sustainability, biodiversity, carbon sequestration, and they are starting to understand that this is theory. This is real theory. Not all. There are others that have easy, applicable solutions, like, for example, exterminate half of the human. That's okay, and then you have to look at other things. Okay, the solution is fantastic. But others, which are much more wise and think and more intelligent, are starting to understand that this kind of solution that we are working with, this is a partial solution. This is one of the many projects are really interesting, and they start to understand that science can make a difference for the oceans, for many things, and also for the ocean. And they are very interested to understand how we can apply the tools that are already existing. Not all. We know we don't have all the answers out of the things. Look at the mapping, for example, of the sea. We still are in the infancy to see what habitats are there, but they are very interested. And they are more and more prone to hear about this kind of projects, and more prone to hear about how the scientists will give this kind of solutions, mixing the efforts of one and the other. This is a reality. I repeat, not all. There are others that are not much more straightforward.
Thanks. And I want to continue on this concept of making solutions that are profitable, because I think that's the easiest way to engage with a larger community. Oyvind, you also mentioned this element of demonstrating that cultivating or providing aquaculture solutions in connections to this offshore infrastructure is something that can be profitable, or you have to demonstrate that it's profitable. How do you intend to do that? Do you have some economic analysis connected to it?
Yeah, there is, and there are also companies involved. That's quite important. The wind farms are there; they exist. The offshore aquaculture is being built up by companies that exist. There is one major, there is one large aquaculture company involved in this. An interesting thing there is that the different industrial sectors are very different in the different European countries. In most countries like Germany and Denmark, the offshore wind farm industry is extremely strong. They have a very impressive movement towards renewable energy, whereas the agriculture is somewhat smaller. Not so small in Denmark, but quite small in Germany. Still, there's a very strong interest in building up there. They get by combining different countries across Europe to get different competence there. In Norway, actually the situation is opposite. The aquaculture industry is large and strong, whereas the offshore wind farming is just being built up now. In that respect, the country is behind the others. So maybe by combining the efforts from the different industries in the different countries, you can achieve this. But you're right, we have to prove this. We actually have to build this. And this is new compared to the earlier projects we have seen on that field, which have been more theoretical evaluation, lots of engineering ideas and so on, and some interesting pilot projects. But now we are going up actually to a quite large scale.
And of course that accounts for both the element of construction and installation, and the element of how much yield you can produce in this location.
Yeah, some production of seaweed and blue mussels will take place during the lifetime of the project, which will give you an indication of what is actually possible there.
Okay. And Anna, before to go to Uros, because also in that case, I think I'm very curious to hear the technologies and how they want to monitor plastic and if that's profitable at all. But Anna, you mentioned that you have these 3 phases of this. Every year you have like the conclusion of one phase, and the last 6 months, if I understand correctly, is like a scaling up phase. I was wondering where this economic assessment is coming in.
Thank you for the question, because actually it comes from the beginning.
Okay.
It's the only way to proceed, because as also mentioned in this call, this is an innovation action, and it goes for a transformation, meaning that it's building up on activities that already were in place. So we are not starting new kelp restoration or seagrasses or, for instance, beach sand replacement because of the coastal erosion. These activities will be enhanced, but they will be analyzed under the different perspectives. So always in a social ecological perspective with economical assessment. And that's why we have all the stakeholders or several stakeholders engaged, because at the end, the solutions will also have this cost effectiveness, cost, the return either on natural capital credits or carbon natural enhancement of biodiversity or carbon credits, because at the end you need also to communicate these units. But the focus is very clear on reducing pressures on the ecosystems, also restoring them, but reducing the pressures. So we can also show the benefits, and these are social economical benefits of reducing these pressures.
Yeah, yeah, that's societal value anyway. It's there.
That we have economical task force just for this analysis.
Okay, thanks. And Uros, I mentioned this, well, you mentioned some of these technologies that you have in mind. You also mentioned that you are not the expert of some of these technologies like drones and machine learning and things like that, if I understood correctly. But can you elaborate a little bit? I mean, are these companies involved helping you in producing these solutions? The solutions already exist and are going to be applied in new settings, or?
So as a coordinator, I at the kickoff meeting, the last slide I said, not expert. It's not that they will invest in drones, but what they will get out of it. So drones will map where is the highest pollution plastic. Analyze the plastic, okay, it's part of one plastic which can be useful for the market and so on. And you already have the companies. Here are the beach cleanup, but the startup also bigger companies, if the piece is bigger than 2 to 5 centimeters, you can recycle it. I don't want, you will also push it to the legislation to the EU.
Yeah, of course.
This like even more profitable business. No, at the end of the day, we can say, okay, plastic is a hazardous material. Plastic can be like what else? Taxed more if it's in the use that it's tended to be like thrown away or the millimeter. We know we can read from the labels which actually show where it's coming from.
Yeah.
5 years in a row, who is the biggest the biggest companies, you know, it's simple part. So, and they are aware of this, you know, of course, we are talking to the biggest company, biggest plastic producers, you know, as an institute. Also, we have several million of contracts working with them already. We have not disclosed those, but we are aware that they're doing that good because of us, you know, by changing the model. Yeah, so these technologies, these startups, you know, because now we are very connected as a people, you know. But at the end of the day, it's all about the circularity, information, resources, the value of those. This will be the business model. Same example with the water, you know. Don't remove microplastic and then push water back to the ocean. No, it's drink water, reuse it again. This is the model. Somebody will pay for it because it's easier. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, sure. And well, it's also clear that I mean, we are moving into these directions of solutions that are coming from the science, but with a lot of potential for upscaling into society in different sectors. I mean, from drinkable water to traceability of plastics, but also in terms of restorations and tourism increase, etc. So
People just the solution should make a common sense to everyone. Make it common sense. And usually, as a scientist, too complicated stuff. You have to like, yeah, this will work. That's one. But at the end of the day, you have to be really worried, like in one word. But otherwise, it's.
Well, thank you all for that. I think I like to give a round of applause to terminate this round table here. And we have on the agenda this formal signing up of EuroMarine of the Mission Ocean Charter. I want to invite Isabel here as well. I don't know if you have any celebration thing. One thing we want to do is, of course, a picture with Elisabetta and the coordinators here. And yeah, you can. Yeah, I think actually you can stay. So the picture is with all the, well, some of the main mission projects.
Where is the
I don't know. Maybe that's the signature is with the picture. But we need to put the camera maybe there. Oh, we actually have
Yes. Oh, we already have one for it. Then we swap. Okay. And then
but so we put for the picture the camera we have.
no, she's there. She's there.
Oh, she's there. Okay.
Okay, pen. Can I go with pen?
Fine. Oh, I think everyone here to make the picture. Yeah. We're going to get on the mission. And yeah, I mean, I think we pretty exciting time ahead. And I don't know if signature here counts anything, but
You can sign because we have.
so it's not only how to say not formal, symbolic. Yeah, thanks. That's the. It's not only a symbolic term, but it's also a commitment for the entire community to support all these activities that are not only limited within the boundaries of science, but going beyond, as we have seen and in all your projects, basically. So it's a new type of doing science, let's say.
This is a very important moment for all of us. So we also like to have this picture, and I think my colleagues are also behind, following behind the screen, and we are all congratulating you. And please send us a picture that we will also tweet and put on social media.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to all of you.